Let's start with a giant sloth that weighed nearly 9,000 pounds. Yep, you heard that right. Picture a modern sloth. Now blow it up to the size of an Asian elephant about 20 feet long. That's Megatherium, the shaggy tank that roamed South America until roughly 10,000 years ago. It could rear up on its hind legs, use its massive tail as a third foot, and yank down tree branches with claws longer than a man's hand. Good news, it was a plant eater. Bad news, it still existed. But here's where things get weird. For decades, we pictured it as a gentle vegetarian hug machine. But some scientists aren't buying that. Biomechanical studies show its arms were built not just for pulling branches but for speed and stabbing power. That led to a dark theory. Maybe Megatherium wasn't just munching leaves. Maybe it was an opportunistic carnivore, using those dinner knife claws to spear smaller animals or flip armored ones over to scoop out the good stuff. Local legends in the Amazon tell of a beast called Mapinguari, a two-legged hairy monster that roars like a chainsaw and smells like death, with a mouth on its stomach. Aside from the stomach-mouth thing, the description lines up suspiciously well with our prehistoric sloth. Maybe that mouth was just villagers remembering its rippling abs through generations of storytelling. So, is there a giant meat-eating sloth still lurking in the Amazon jungle? Probably not. But if you ever see a sloth moving faster than a hammock sway run, just run. Okay, let's get this straight right now. Pterosaurs were not dinosaurs. They were the first true flying reptiles, the F-16 seconds of the Cretaceous skies. Some had wingspans over 35 feet that's wider than a city bus. They had hollow bones, massive chests, and razor-sharp teeth perfect for skewering fish. They didn't flap like birds. They glided on leathery wings stretched from an absurdly long fourth finger. For years, scientists thought they were clumsy sky lizards. Turns out, they were aviation masters. Some cruised the seas like albatrosses. Some stalked shorelines like herons. And others had comb-like teeth that filtered tiny prey. Basically, they were the Swiss Army knives of prehistoric flight. So where did they go? Same old story, birds muscled them out of the smaller air gigs, and then a pesky asteroid turned off the lights. Still, locals in Papua New Guinea whisper about the ropen, a crested glowing creature with a tail that lights up the night sky. Yep, a bioluminescent flying reptile. Meanwhile, in the 1,970 seconds, folks in Texas and Arizona reported giant leathery-winged creatures swooping over highways and occasionally snatching livestock. Could pterosaurs still be alive? Science says they got benched 66 million years ago, so probably not. But if you spot something with a wingspan bigger than a school bus gliding over Texas, maybe don't stick around to check if it's got feathers. Welcome to New Zealand, the land where birds decided to get weird. And none got weirder than the moa. Picture an ostrich, then crank the size up to 12 feet tall and 500 pounds. Now delete the wings completely. Not even the sad little ones for show. Just a walking, feathery tank on two tree trunk legs. For millions of years, the moa ruled. The ultimate plant muncher with no land predators. But its nightmare came from above the Haast's eagle. A 30-pound raptor with a 9-foot wingspan and talons the size of tiger claws. Their battles were pure myth, sky god versus land titan. Then humans showed up. Around 1300 AD, the Maori arrived, and to them, the moa wasn't a marvel of evolution, it was lunch on legs. Within a single century, all 9 species were wiped out. One of the fastest human-caused extinctions in history. But the story refuses to die. Since the early 1900s, people have reported seeing huge wingless birds stalking the forests of New Zealand's South Island, complete with giant footprints and blurry photos, of course. The moa ruled for 1,000,000 years, and vanished after 100. Not exactly a mystery, more like the most effective product review ever written for a hunting spear. Alright, if you've made it this far through the killer ostrich, its eagle assassin, and the world's worst sloth, you're officially one of us. Do the smart thing, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. It keeps us funded for our next terrible idea, chasing a lizard the size of a bus. Now we head to Central Africa, home to one of cryptozoology's oldest legends, Mokele Mbembe, the one who stops the river. According to local lore, it's a massive creature, about 33 feet long, with a neck like a crane and a body built like a tank basically, a sauropod dinosaur that somehow forgot to go extinct. The story hit Western ears in the early 1900s when European explorers along the Congo River heard tribes describe a terrifying animal that capsized canoes and stirred up tidal waves. Sounds like Jurassic Park Safari Edition, right? But here's the catch: that whole dinosaur label was likely a Western invention. Locals spoke of a huge, aggressive river beast. It was the fossil-obsessed explorers who jumped in and said, "Aha, must be a diplodocus." For over a century, expeditions funded by cryptozoologists, creationists, and dreamers have searched for this beast and found absolutely nothing. No bones, no photos, not even a blurry tail print. When BBC researchers later showed locals a wildlife book, they pointed to a rhinoceros and said, "That's Mokele Mbembe." So maybe it's not a lost dinosaur at all. Maybe it's a hippo, a rhino, or just a really good campfire story meant to keep curious outsiders from paddling too far upstream. After 100 years of hunting, explorers have found one living thing for sure: mosquitoes. Lots of them. Everything in Australia wants to kill you. And 50,000 years ago, that list was topped by Megalania. Forget saltwater crocs, this was a 20-foot lizard that weighed over 1,000 pounds and came with venom. Think a Komodo dragon that discovered steroids. And then took more steroids. This beast was the apex predator of ancient Australia, hunting giant marsupials like Diprotodon. Imagine a wombat the size of a hippo. And yes, it lived alongside the first humans to reach the continent, which might explain why Aboriginal legends talk about giant walking serpents. Science says it's extinct. But hey, this is Australia, a place where spiders eat birds and snakes climb toilets. In the 1,970 seconds, folks in Queensland reported seeing huge, scaly lizards sprinting into the brush. Cryptozoologists even found oversized tracks they swore belonged to Megalania. Is that likely? Not really. But if any place could still hide a venomous, 20-foot death lizard, it's probably Australia. It'd rank somewhere between jellyfish and lawnmowers on the national danger scale. So, is Megalania still out there? No proof. But let's be honest, if you were hiking through the outback and saw a Komodo-sized dragon sprinting your way, would you stop to take a picture or try to set a new land speed record? Alright, here's a biological riddle. What do you get when you cross a bear, a hyena, and a leopard on a continent that doesn't even have bears? Answer: the Nandi Bear, nature's drunken mistake. For over a century, stories from East Africa have told of a terrifying predator called Chemo Sit, or the brain eater. Descriptions are pure chaos. Some say it's got shoulders like a hyena and a sloping back. Others swear it's shaggy like a bear, lumbers like a primate, or howls like something that crawled straight out of a nightmare. It supposedly hunts at night, lets out a scream that curdles your blood, and, yes, eats brains. Small issue though. Africa doesn't have native bears. So what gives? Some theorists say it could be a surviving short-faced bear from the Ice Age or a prehistoric giant hyena. Others think it's just an oversized honey badger with attitude, or a regular hyena seen through the lens of fear and bad lighting. The Nandi Bear is cryptozoology's perfect monster because it makes zero sense. It's a Frankenstein of fear stitched together from screams in the dark and a century of imagination. So, do these prehistoric beasts still roam somewhere out there? Probably not. But hey, the Amazon is a big place, and I'm not the guy volunteering to check. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you're officially a certified prehistoric animal nerd. Hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. Which one of these creatures would you least want to meet face to face?